We're going to call up the meeting. Good evening. I'm going to be running our meeting tonight. As everybody knows me, I'm Laura Isiorri, and I'm the vice president. We're going to pledge allegiance for the first item in the agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Second item in the agenda is adoption of the agenda. I will need a motion to move.
I move to.
I have a question about the agenda. I noticed that this agenda doesn't have an item for future agenda items. Is that because it's a different session this time around? Because normally towards the bottom, there's future agenda items that we get to add. And normally when that happens, there's either a response for public comment. And so I don't see that on the agenda today. And I wonder if that's going to be a concern.
Well, this is the template always used for your board work session. So we have a work session template and we have a business meeting section. So each one of them has a slightly different template. So we've just used the template that you've used in the past for work sessions.
Okay, so then for regular sessions, it would be a different template.
Correct.
Okay, I just wasn't sure about that. And I'm pretty sure our community wouldn't know that either. Okay.
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Second item is public comments. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Everybody, everybody on favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. I get so excited. Then I get to jump into the other item. Okay. So we have public comments. And before we start off with public comments, I will read out the notice of how we present the public comments. If a person speaking during the public comment portion of the meeting shall state their name, whether they are a resident of the district, and if it's speaking on behalf of an organization, please state the name of the organization. Statements should be brief and concise. A person speaking during the signing portion of the agenda for public comment may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs. The board will not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. A person given comment is limited to 3 minutes. Thank you. First, we will hear from Cristina. And we will have a timer so Cristina can see it and everybody else. Thank you, Cristina.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to share my concerns regarding 2 board members' behavior and the impact their behavior has on our students. The Woodburn School District has approximately 5,368 students. Of those, 2,630, about 49% of those students identify as female. The exploitive behavior of the 2 board members that have engaged at a massage parlor is concerning to me as a parent, a community member, and a professional. In my 17 years of professional experience working with individuals who have been sexually exploited, I have yet to encounter a vulnerable person who engaged in mutual groping in a situation where coercion is a factor in their exploitation. The behavior Mr. Swenson engaged with a woman who is not his wife or his partner, and then linked himself to a survivor of sex abuse, first and foremost is sickening. At the very least, it's concerning. For him to believe that his participation in the exploitation of vulnerable individual makes him a victim is extremely concerning given his power, influence, and role as a board member. He is a part of the Me Too movement, but as a perpetrator, not a victim. His conduct has a rippling effect on our students. 82% of all juvenile sex abuse victims are female, and adolescent females are 4 times more likely than the general public to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. Moreover, immigrant and refugee communities are at a higher risk for sexual assault and exploitation. I share these statistics because 2,630 of Woodburn School District students identify as female. Woodburn is proud to be an ethically and culturally diverse community, and we have 2 men on this board that oversee the policies and practice of students that believe and behave in a way that re-traumatizes and triggers our students with limited support to access to culturally responsive services and mental health services. Our students deserve better. Our students and community deserve to be represented by individuals who do not exploit the vulnerabilities of others. Our students deserve to feel physically and emotionally safe. Our students deserve the opportunity to be in a learning environment in which they do not have to worry about abuse of power from those who make decisions. Mr. Medina and Mr. Swenson are smart and assertive individuals. Their behavior and response is a snapshot of their values, morals, and beliefs. Character is who you are when no one's watching. The aforementioned behaviors do not align with the safety and emotional well-being of our students. As a parent and registered voter, I respectfully request the resignations from the school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Now we have Mr. Swenson, one of our board members. Public comment. You're muted.
You're still muted there. Oh,
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
you're unmuted.
Hello? Am I being heard there?
Oh, we still can't hear you.
Hello? I'm unmuted. Hello?
Check the mic that is under your Zoom section. Check what mic it's using.
Sometimes when you mute an individual and then they unmute themselves.
Okay, I muted you and now ask to unmute.
Sometimes it works.
Test?
Okay, how about now?
No.
No? I would be, how about this?
Give it a go again.
Okay, try again. Say hello. Eric, can you say something?
Is he frozen?
No. Eric, can you hear us? Can you say
I
something
can,
again?
I can hear you, but you can't hear me.
You
No.
can go off and come back.
Do you want to log out and log back in? I think that might work.
Me? Okay.
Then when it's joined by audio or something from the computer. So I'm gonna continue on. I'm gonna continue on while he gets back and connected. I'm gonna ask Sean to come forward, please.
I just I was not prepared because I received an email that said my comment didn't meet criteria, so I only have my outline. But briefly, I'm astonished at the audacity that Mr. Swinson and Mr. Medina have to not immediately resign upon the information of their visit and immorality at the Woodburn Spa being made public. Not only that, they continue to pursue political office. These two individuals show absolutely no integrity nor moral compass. I have no confidence in their ability to make sound, rational, and righteous decisions that are in the best interest of anyone but themselves. Our children and our community deserve better. I call for their immediate resignation from the school board. Thank you.
Eric, you want to try again?
Okay, now can you hear me?
No.
Hello? I'm talking now. No?
No.
Maybe Eric could call in, like just put my phone on speaker.
Yeah. Eric, do you mind dialing Juan? Juan's
Okay.
cell, and then you could talk through there? Yeah,
Because we're very close to the microphone.
yeah. We'll just put it-
Hey, Eric, you're on speaker here.
Yeah, can you turn off your sound on Zoom, Eric?
Turn your volume down.
Yeah, because we can hear it. That's better. There we go.
There.
Wait, that's way better.
I think he could join on his phone.
I think that's what he's using. We could hear it. We could hear it.
Okay, does that work?
Yes,
Can everybody hear in the back?
Hello? Can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. Everybody can hear me. Okay. Okay, well, I want to thank Christina and the previous gentleman. I appreciate their sentiments. As you can see, I tried to log on and make this work before those comments, but I want to share a decision that I made about a week ago after taking a lot of time to think through these things. So let me say that after serving our Woodburn School District for the past 3 years, I'm stepping down from my role as board member as we welcome Dr. Jerome Morlock as our new superintendent. I do want to personally thank every one of our staff members who have worked through these last 3 years, which have been very trying in all kinds of unanticipated ways, and particularly to Juan Larios, who was ably led us through much of that. The last time we had a school board vacancy, 5 very qualified leaders applied. And at the time I mentioned, like there are a number of us who are involved in other things. It would be great if all those people could have been elected to our board. So it's clearly an excellent time to allow others to contribute to the leadership of our district. And as you can all understand, it's a good time for me to be more family focused. As you do all move forward from this moment, I'm hopeful that this board of directors can provide the focus on students that our district needs and not be distracted by non-school related political and personal issues, which is too often the case in other school districts. You've often heard me say that it's imperative that we have a healthy exchange of ideas and opinions, and that especially when we're indignant about issues, we preserve the dignity of those who we have issues with. I speak specifically to anyone for whom it's difficult to resist judgment, to not judge, to throw the first or second stone, and to question and be curious about other people's motives and morals. I have taught students for 30 years to own their mistakes, make reparations, move on, and not be defined by them. I hope that my resignation helps in the cause of this district moving on. And I would like to thank our former board chair, Medina, who in the much discussed events of this summer, unlike myself, did not make a mistake, was a victim, was immediate in his reporting, all at decidedly personal and reputational risk to himself and his family, that is being played out now and is remaining on the board at this time. Coming forward with information about a crime is not at all easy, knowing that it become public information. It takes courage, especially when you're a victim, as Mr. Medina was. As I did when I retired from the school district 4 years ago, I would like to thank all the many staff members who influenced and shaped the life of my son over his 14 years as a Woodburn student, who have been wonderful colleagues for my wife over her 25 years as a teacher and still going strong, and every person I've had the honor of working with. I'm indebted to your work with students, your work with each other, and your friendship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. We're going to continue on with Frank. Is Frank and thank you, Frank. I'm sorry, I don't have last names.
No,
Okay?
you're fine.
And I think it will be easier instead of me trying to say, the
Good.
last names.
The timer starts after the introduction or before?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, my name is Frank Anderson. I'm a resident of the community of Woodburn. I'm not a part of any organization. I come here today to question the Woodburn School District strategic plan for the years of 2018 to 2023. In this strategic plan, under the values section, civic responsibility and accountability are listed as important values to this district. I found a generalized definition for civic responsibility, and it is defined as an active participation in the public life of the community in an informed, committed, and constructive manner with focus on the common good. I also found a generalized definition of accountability, which is an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. When this document was agreed upon and created, who was the document created for? The students, the teachers, the support staff, the administration, the school board. I think we can all agree it was to serve the entire school district and those who were involved with it. I find it embarrassing, ironic, and highly offensive that the document creators couldn't follow their own document. Thank you for your time.
You're out of
Okay,
time.
fine. We have Fernie. Is Fernie Ella in here?
Good evening. I'm Courtney Elwell, and I live here in Woodburn. And I have children that attend Woodburn schools, have attended and continue to attend Woodburn schools. I'm here tonight to comment publicly on the recent news reports, police reports, narratives, truths, and lies surrounding the investigation at Woodburn Spa and our school board members. You, the school board, are elected, and we look to you to be of sound judgment, decision-making, and to be ambassadors of the school district. Honesty, integrity, and the highest level of transparency is expected in this role. The news stations, social media, and the press have put the story together according to their own agenda or as you have requested. Community members, parents, and students have done their own research and are angry, disappointed, and ready for change. What we know is one board member was forthcoming and admitted at his very inappropriate sexual involvement at a massage parlor. We also know the other board member was not honest about his involvement. He wanted to remain anonymous. He wanted to keep things secret. He was coached to report. What he first thought was maybe like a sexual prank of some sort. He reported to Woodburn police. What he found at Woodburn Spa on a website that actually advertised sexual activity. After much research by community members, there are numerous holes in this story, including the fact that he contacted a reporter just hours before the story went to press so that he could add that he was a victim of sexual abuse when he was 10 years old. This is highly concerning, very concerning. This was added for the media, but never provided to the Woodburn Police. My children have all attended school here or are attending school here. They, like so many others, have started their days of kindergarten chanting and sitting on the floors of the gym and then standing up with these 3 words: be safe, be respectful, be responsible. Woodburn School Board, with success comes responsibility. The students, the parents, and the community of Woodburn are now asking you, 2 school board members, Eric Swinson and Anthony Medina, to be responsible. Submit your resignation immediately. Thank you.
We have Jimmy. Jimmy.
I will not be as eloquent as Mrs. Elwell. Good evening, board members. Mere months ago, excuse me, former Superintendent Moreno Gilson was placed on administrative leave following a personnel complaint. An independent investigation was conducted and he was ultimately fired in a 4-1 vote. Board Chairman Anthony Medina pointed to the findings of the investigation, which was not public, as the reason for his termination. Whether the details of the investigation were made public or not, only one knows it came down to not holding himself to the higher standard expected in such a leadership role. And for Mr. Medina to be the one to point the findings of the investigation to terminate, it seems a bit ironic. How is this any different if higher standards are the same? The following are some factors released by the Woodburn Independent and some of the police department records requests. I will change some of the verbiage to be a little more respectful in the content. So Mr. Medina stated his regular massage therapist was not available for a long period of time, therefore proceeded to use Woodburn Massage. From the time Mr. Medina was told there was no appointment available at his regular massage parlor to the point where he went to Woodburn Massage was 48 hours. Therefore, Mr. Medina had 2 days to search for other massage facilities that could treat him. A simple Google search would have shown at least roughly 15 places available, with 9 of them closing after 5 o'clock, up to 7 p.m. and even 10 p.m., providing sufficient time. Also, Silverton could have been considered. In his police interview, he stated he had looked on the Woodburn Massage website prior to having gone. However, in doing research, in a search, one will find there's no website, but instead it leads to one, Rub Maps, a site showing erotic massage parlors in the surrounding area, including Woodburn Massage. It does not take a software engineer to know that within moments, one can make a determination what the business entails. Mr. Medina also made it a point that he was traumatized by the experience that, unfortunately, he experienced at 10 years old. This point was highlighted in the Woodburn Independent when the article was released. However, as Ms. Elwell stated, it was found that Mr. Medina called the paper the night before the article was to be released to ask that him being a victim of abuse be added to the article, which obviously was done. Mr. Medina did state he had over 100 massages, so he knew what was normal. Mr. Medina stated he went into the room, laid face down, and was covered up with the towel and not the normal sheet. Stated that while face down, the woman was rubbing his back, and from where his head was positioned, and while rubbing his back, began to rub her woman parts area on his head. As stated, the woman continued to rub his back from the side where Mr. Medina stated he had his arms hanging out the side of the bed. And he stated that the woman began rubbing her woman parts around his arm. He stated at one point, while rubbing his back, the woman proceeded to put her hands in his boxers and rub his genitalia and buttocks. Therefore, I kindly respectfully request board member Eric Swinson and Anthony to resign from the elected positions immediately.
We had 5 comments.
Yeah, that's it.
We will continue on with our work session. In point 120, we have demographic study presented by Davis Demographics and Cassandra
Cassandra.
Okay.
She's on.
She's on. Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
sorry, Cassandra.
No. Let me get this up for you guys. Thank you.
Oh,
Not hearing her.
wow, now we can't hear you. We were able to hear.
It does show the computer's muted. Your volume on the computer.
Oh,
Can you guys hear me?
yeah.
Can you talk, Cassandra?
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. All right. You guys can see my screen now, right? Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hello, guys. My name is Cassandra Rodriguez. I'm a project manager with Davis Demographics. Thank you so much for accommodating me virtually tonight. I greatly appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to go over the fall 22-23 through fall 31-32 demographic study. Keep in mind, this is based on last year, fall 21-22 data. The study covers the next 10 years. It is a challenging period as we are emerging from the pandemic and noticing the impacts that the pandemic had. I'll go over the demographic trends that we are observing throughout the community and touch base on a bunch of different demographic trends such as birth rates, housing development, student generation rates that all contribute to this study. The scope of work that we were tasked to do geocode 4 years of student data. And you might be asking yourself, what is geocode? Davis Demographics based all our studies on GIS, or Geographic Information Systems. We use this every day. If you were to type an address in your Google Maps and it would go to point A to B, you are using a term of geocoding. Geocoding is basically placing your student residences on little dots on a map. We then researched area development project and plans. We're in touch with the city planner, county planners, and developers within the district. We created student generation rates for the district as well, and these are applied to the new projects within the district. We analyzed relevant area demographic data, such as those birth trends and mobility, which is the ins and outs of students in throughout your district. And from there, all these compounded into a 10-year student forecast. A piece of backbone of our study are your students. We use the past 4 years of student data. This process is called geocoding, basically mapping student locations onto a map. How we did this is we acquired the latest parcel, street data, address points, all in GIS form from the county to do this. You can see in the picture too, we have those little yellow dots. Those are your students that are placed onto the map, and the turquoise outlines are your parcel data. Another key point of this study are your study areas. We organized the district into 110 neighborhoods. You can think of the study areas as a fine-tuned level. They are broken down between 25 to 75 students per area. And in order to do this, we used your existing street network, geographic features, water, open space, parcel lot lines, and overall student density to determine this. For each one of these 110 areas, we break it down into a 10-year forecast. This will show you individual neighborhood forecasts, which will show you different areas of growth and decline. You will see in one part of your community, you may be experiencing decline while the other may be stable. And this is what these study area forecasts will show you. Now, our forecasts are residence-based, and why our forecasts are based upon student residence rather than enrollment. It's to predict where future students will be living. It's easier to identify population trends that may not be present or easily identifiable when establishing projections on enrollment. As we all know, that's due to the special programs schools may have, curriculum, and open enrollment patterns. We use residence space to determine the location of new facilities or if we need to consolidate surplus facilities in the future. And we can also help determine future boundary adjustments if needed. Little introduction to our methodology. So the backbone are our current and historical student data that we just discussed. This is 4 years of historical data and current, so from 2018 to 2021. We then applied birth factors, which are your birth rates from the zip codes that make up your district, and that is applied to the kindergarten class only. We take mobility factors, which is the ins and outs of student movement in your district, and that is applied through all grades. We then take your student yield factors that we did create and we researched, and we apply that to the planned residential development within your district. Now, student yield factors are only applied to new areas of development, and it excludes the mature areas of your district. I will be presenting two scenarios of the 21-22 10-year forecast. They each have their differences. One shows decline, while the other is a best case growth scenario. We wanted to illustrate the uncertainties that we are working with. It is important to update the report yearly to stay on top of the changing variables that I mentioned above, such as birth factors, mobility factors, and student yield rates, along with residential development that are all changing. So as we dive deep into the factor, number one is our birth rates. And this is for version number one, this is the status quo. This is what's naturally occurring within your district and no changes have been made. Birth factors are used to determine future kindergarten class sizes. They indicate how many children may start kindergarten 5 years after birth. All future kindergarten classes are calculated from the base year. So from last fall 2021, the base year was 2016. Overall, area births are declining. This is a common trend we see nationwide. And low birth rates correlate to smaller K classes. Again, for version one, no modifications were made here. You could see that in 2006, that was the highest birth rates that were observed between the district's zip codes. And ever since then, it's been on the decline. 2020, that's the latest data we have. We are at 425 combined births district-wide. Version two, this is where we made some tweaks to the birth factors. So one-time only adjustment and the birth rates were used for the projections for fall 2021 and beyond. A 10% increase in birth rates was used for all 10 years to recompensate for the additional enrollment of the K class that we're hopeful to see in the 22-23 school year. So how the K class and births correlate. So despite having lower birth rates in fall 21, the district captured 66% of the K class born in 2016. Prior to the pandemic in 2019, the district was capturing 84% of the K class born in 2014. This is a positive sign that kids born within the district are staying until they can attend district schools in kindergarten. Another one of our factors is mobility. And for version one, we modified it a bit and I'll go into details. No, version two. So mobility refers to the increase or decrease in the migration of students within the district. Basically, it's your move in and move out to students from existing housing. This is your mature neighborhoods and does not take into account the areas of new development. Mobility captures apartment occupancy fluctuations, resales, foreclosures, movement outside of the district, and high school dropout rates. It is common to see specific patterns reflected in these factors that most public schools experience. For example, you could see the increases in 9th grade are typically due to the students leaving private and charter schools to access programs or activities that are more commonly available in public school. While one could observe the increases in 9th grade followed by drops in 10th grade as students are held back to retake 9th grade. We also see decreases tend to continue throughout 12th grade as some students drop out or are held back to earn credits to graduate. Meanwhile, in the elementary grades, we usually see gains observed from K to 1 as many private daycare services are not typically offered and to children beyond kindergarten, and thus we see parents enrolling their children within the public school. So how we get this factor is we map the last 4 years of student data. Again, that's crucial to our forecast. And we establish these mobility factors. So how you can read this, if you have 100 kindergartner students in fall 21-22, and you take heritage mobility rate of 1.02, you multiply that, you will have 102 first graders in the fall of 22 and 23. For version 2 of the mobility factor, we did a modification here. We excluded the COVID year from the mobility to account for the unusual enrollment trend that the pandemic created. We will see when we dive into the district-wide forecast, there was a loss of 263 K-12 students from 2019 to 20, and a loss of 117 K-12 students from 2020 to 21. So we just excluded that COVID year to help bring positive mobility, and you can see the positive trends from 8 to 9, 11 to 12, and definitely within the middle school grades. While in version 1, we were seeing more declines and less negative mobility. Another one of our factor, which we had a study done for the district, is a student yield factor. So student yield factors are only applied when there's new residential development with more than 10 units. These yields determine how many additional students will be generated from new construction within the district. Keep in mind that the apartment yields are high due to a low sample size of students and units built within the last 10 years. It is important to monitor yearly to capture accurate student generation rates as these apartments are built and as they mature and as more people move into them, the apartment yields will change. So a little deeper dive in how we determine the yield factors. Again, we apply this to new housing estimates, and we focused on the units built within the last 10 years due to the low sample size of units built within the last 5 years. We focused on 2 main housing types, single family detached and apartments. And in the report, I have it broken down by elementary attendance area so you can see each one of what each one of these areas is generating. And how we do this is basically a simple query. We gather parcel data from the county. We take a year built, determine that, so we can have an adequate sample size within the last 10 years. And we determine how many students are coming out from these units that were produced from the last 10 years. Next, we apply those student yields to residential development. Here we did all our due diligence. We contacted city, county, and all developers within the district to determine all current and future residential development. We are estimating that there are going to be roughly over 1,900 total units planned within the next 10 years, and it's estimated to generate 950 K-12 students across the board over the next 10 years. You'll notice the red box for years 7 through 10, and you'll notice that it has zeros. This is very common as developer schedules change, and we did not feel comfortable guessing and doing guesstimates and adding units that may not even be built in this era. So that's why it's so important to keep up on your development, and as it changes, market trends change, the availability to products change. We need to keep an eye on it every year. A key piece in the report we will have is your development map. I wanted to point this out. So we have your projects broken down by type. The blue polygons are your apartments, and your yellow polygons are your single family detached. You'll notice that each one of these have a number associated with them, and I'll go into detail on the next slide about that. Here is your development summary. So the map ID correlates to the ID number that is on your map. We have your project name, the developer name, study area in which the project lies, the total number of units, the unit type for that project, the number of units remaining at the time of when we did the study, the status of the project, the estimate first occupancies. This is when the first families will move into these homes. An estimate full occupancy is when we estimate complete build out and the project will be complete. These projects are broken down by elementary attendance area, and as you can see, Heritage and Lincoln have a majority of your development. All projects, regardless of project status, are included on this table. So that's why if you see an NA under estimated first occupancies, that means we don't have a clear idea of when these projects may come online, and that's why it's so important to update this yearly as developer schedules will change. The next piece of this puzzle is what we like to call an attendance matrix. This acts as a check and balance for student accounting. Matrices illustrate where students reside based upon where their geocoded address is and which school they attend based upon school provided data. What this can tell you, it helps the district track its open enrollment patterns, and it can be determined by comparing the school of residence to the school of attendance. So how you read this, if you read down the column where in the blue it says students attending Heritage, you will see that there are 301 students attending Heritage. You read across the row, you will see that students residing in Heritage in red. There are 483 students living within the Heritage attendance area. Now, there are 301 students attending Heritage and reside within Heritage attendance area. You'll now see the transfer out rate. Heritage has 37.7% of its students transferring out, and the transfer in rate with 38.9% students transferring in. The row in the tan, the total enrollment, that matches what was given to us in the student file, and that was the enrollment of the school in fall of 21 and 22. Next, we'll dive deep into the 10-year district-wide forecast. So this is version 1, where no modifications are made. Keep in mind, this is based on where the students live rather than the enrollment at each site. Overall, we're estimated to see a decline of roughly a loss of 21 students, K-12 students over the next 10 years. The largest decline is observed at the middle school level with a loss of 402 6/8 students over the next 10 years. This decrease is due to a decline in kindergarten enrollment, overall declining area births, and low mobility rates. This may be all related to the pandemic, but it's unclear if this is a new trend, a new normal for you, or a temporary trend. Version 2, this is where we made modifications. We're now showing slight growth of 4% or 201 K-12 students over the next 10 years, with the largest increase observed at the elementary school level with 11% increase of K-5 students. This increase is due to, we increased the birth rates 10% in hopes that K students return to pre-COVID levels. We modified the mobility factor to account for that unusual enrollment trend that we noticed due to COVID, and overall just due to the amount of residential development occurring within the district that is contributing to the growth. Breaking it down another level for you is the district-wide forecast for version 1. In the yellow underline, you'll see that we are experiencing a smaller K class. In 2018, there's 389 kindergarteners. And in 2021, there's 321 with a loss of 6/8 students. We see declining area births. So in 2021, we have 321 kindergarteners. And by 2025, it decreases each year from 317, 306, 314, 303. The kindergartner class keeps declining due to low area births. We also see a large grade classes are graduating out. We see the 400 range, 438 8th graders in 2021, 9th graders 435, 10th graders 412. All these are being replaced by smaller class sizes, and all this gets compounded throughout the years, contributing to the decline. In version 2, we notice now a larger K class since we increased the burst for 10% in 2021. We know that the K class is 321, and by 2026, sorry, it's kind of small for me to see, we have 426 K class estimated to be there. We removed the COVID year, as I've just mentioned, and mobility to remove the unusual enrollment trend. As you can see there, from 2019 to 2020, we lost 263 K-12 students. And overall, for this factor is the large amount of residential development is contributing to the growth. We then break our forecast down into a smaller granular level. We revisit those study area forecasts. So each one of these 4 study areas now shows areas of growth, decline, and stability, and it can help you determine what is going on in different areas of your community. From there, we break it into, for version 1, we broke it into the attendance area forecasts. These forecasts are the sum of the individual study area forecasts we just talked about that make up their region. Now, keep in mind, this is what is occurring within the boundary and where the students live rather than the enrollment at each site. This is based on student residence, and we're taking Lincoln as an example. The large amount of growth here is due to the large amount of residential development that's taking place and a growing K class. For version 1, we have 3% growth from 2021 to 2031. Now, version 2, we are still showing growth, but it's 57% growth from 2021 to 2031. Here, this is due to an increase in births. So in 2021, we have 57 kindergartners. And by 2026, where you can see this peak, we now are experiencing 137 kindergartners. And class sizes are getting larger. We have first graders 65, that becomes 67, and that becomes 92 third graders in 2023. The larger class sizes are compounding, contributing to that large amount of growth that you observe in the year 2026. This is also, keep in mind, 2026, when a large amount of development is expected to take place. From 2025 to 2026, we see a lot of that development started kicking up. So we're going to dive a little deeper into what is happening within the Lincoln elementary attendance area. Overall, the main reason for the growth is due to the large amount of apartment projects within that attendance area and the yield that it has now. That's why it's so important to keep up on this, because we do not have an accurate idea of how many students these apartment units may generate. Overall, there are 1,200 total units within Lincoln Lincoln elementary attendance area alone. Now, just to wrap it all up, to give you guys a summary for version 1 and version 2. Version 1 is the status quo. There's no modifications to factors such as your birth rates, yields, mobility, etc. The results show overall district-wide decline, roughly 21% K-12 students over the next 10 years. This is due to all the reasons we just talked about, declining kindergarten enrollment, declining area births, low mobility. Version 2, on the other hand, is where we modify the factors. We made modifications to those birth rates, the increase of 10% in hopes that K students return. We modified the mobility to account for the unusual trend that COVID created. And these modifications now show district-wide growth by 200 K-12 students over the 10-year projection timeframe. Keep in mind, it's very important for you guys to continue to monitor these trends and future development plans, as these factors are changing yearly. Now, what to watch moving forward? We need to keep a key eye on development. We need to continue to monitor the progress of plan development and possible changes to future plans. We need to keep an eye on the student yield factors and continue to monitor the progress of plan development. And as apartments are completed, student yield factors may change for these apartment units. We'll have a better idea of how many students these projects generate as they become complete and families move in. And that is all for me. Thank you so much.
For version 2, you mentioned 200 plus K-12 resident students over the next 10 years. Can you tell me the base year for that? Is it still 2016?
Yes, correct. So the base year for births is 2016 for 2021.
Okay, so for every academic year between now and 2026, we should expect.
We use the base year of 2016, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Cassandra. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yep. Thank you, Cassandra.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Next on the item and the agenda is the organizational chart update.
Sure.
And this is presented by Superintendent Morla.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Sorry, Joe, I have a quick question. Will we have another follow-up, or what's the next step for this study?
So you'll get the complete study as part of our long-range facility plan. So we wanted to give you an update of this first, so that you would have an idea of some of the factors that go into what we see for long-range facility. So the next part will then be with our partners at Brick Architecture, who will go through the long-range facility plan. to show how what you just saw in the enrollment trends would affect our school buildings, our boundaries, or things like that. So things for future planning. So that would be next. We wanted to give a preview of this because it's relatively dense to at least think about, and then having an overall presentation so you can understand how the factors go into those. I think the other challenge in this too is this is probably something we should be doing yearly. I'm not sure that it's been done very regularly in the past, but we have so many unknown factors with the amount of construction happening, but also the change in our enrollments due to the pandemic and post-pandemic, and those things are all irregular. So I think for the next couple of years, having a regular enrollment report, demographic report done for us would be really helpful. But in terms of next steps, long-range facility plan is next, and that's been underway for several months, and they will use the Davis demographics information that you heard tonight as part of their final report.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, as requested by the school board, you were looking a little bit more for who do I call for what, or what do people do, and sometimes it's hard to understand. In an operation that has, for us, we're a little more than 700 employees and about somewhere between 150, $160 million budget. And so there are a lot of things that go into it. And so people want to know a little bit about what was happening in the organizational chart here. And so while there's a lot of stuff on here, I asked each one of the folks, and many of them are here tonight, if you have specific questions about the things that they do. But I asked them to put in some bullet points so you'd have an idea of where to look. So I'm going to go over just some brief things. I'm not going to read all the bullets because I don't need to punish everybody here tonight. But I do want to have this available. And right before Noemi asks, yes, we will post it on the website. I promise. I knew you'd ask that question. So we'll replace the one that's up there now with this latest one. In general, so people understand the structure of school districts, those in the board of director seats, they work just like any other large business or corporation. They hire a CEO. So if you think of the superintendent as the education CEO, and they are the board of directors, and then that person, the superintendent, is then responsible for directing the operations of every part of the organization. So on the left hand side of the chart, in more of the orange items, we have our teaching and learning. So that's all things due to curriculum, instruction, our cycles of inquiry, grading, reporting, dual language tag, title, things of that nature, Title 2, Title 3. So all the things that go into that, that is headed up by Chrissy Chapman and the assistant director, Nicole Pete. So if you hear of things like AVID programs or EL Achieve, anything that works with our students and curriculum and teaching, that all goes through that office. So a lot happening there. Next to that, to the direct right, is student services, headed up by Dana Christie as the director and Dr. Pam Leiberger as assistant director. Student services is often thought of as just special ed, but that is not true. There are several other comprehensive programs that student services are engaged in, supporting students. They do nursing as well, risk assessments, all the self-contained special education classrooms. If you know about the Bridges Transition Program for students who are 18 to 21, they also manage that. All of the things around out of district placements, if we have students whose needs we're unable to serve here. Just a whole range of things that are due to students who have needs that we need to be supported in more significant ways, as they do a lot of work around that. In the next one to the direct right of that are our title and special programs. That is directed by Sonia Kuhl, and the program administrator under her is Dr. Jen Dixon. And they do, well, everything from the Welcome Center, which you see as you walk in here in the district office on the right, our kinder and preschool programs, all of our things that deal with the county, our after school club, our out of school youth classes, migrant program, all of the data and accountability things around that too. So Dr. Dixon does a lot of that work around the data collection and then presenting that so we can look at trends, we can figure out how to develop our budget and the parts as we move forward to figure out what supports we need for students. So those three really work together to put those items. As you recall, so Juan Larios, who was our interim superintendent last year, he is as an assistant superintendent this year. His primary role is to work with all of the principals at all of the school buildings in a coaching and mentoring role, as well as an accountability role. So His work will be primarily in school buildings, doing those things. Also, it does say designee as assigned, which means that anything that I decide he's got to have to do, I don't have time for, but there's a lot of work in that too. But his role will be around supporting and directing things that are happening at schools for the principals. The principals there are listed as all of our building principals, and we'll put out an announcement of all the positions of people who are new in our new weekly newsletter that will go out to the community starting this week. In technology, we are, our director is Corinne Alberg. So technology is everything from server and the little blinking lights and the wires in the walls and the wireless systems out there, but also deployment of devices for people to use, user management, safety and security in terms of our cybersecurity things, instructional technologies, the stuff that kids get to use, the things that are in classrooms, as well as our technology innovation programs for interesting, for students to do interesting things in classes. And to the direct right of that is human resources. Again, 700 and some plus organization. We have one director, that's Nikki Tucker. Recruit, hire, retain all of our staff, our mentor program, of course, for new staff as we bring them in, evaluation programs, making sure that we're following policies, we're following contracts, and she's also our Title IX officer. In business, Sarah Bishop, of course, the business is running all of the financial operations of the district. That's payroll, it's purchasing, it's managing that we are in compliance with federal, state, and local laws. It's creating a budget and then making sure, monitoring that we're within our budgetary guidelines as set out and that the board approves in the spring. Also supervises the nutrition services. So that is run by Chelsea Allen, who is our coordinator of nutrition services. And in that position, they supervise all the school kitchens, all the school kitchen staff, and make sure that we have meals, whether, if you remember in the pandemic, we were doing a lot of grab and go and trying to feed thousands of children every day. It was pretty significant. And I would say, I know that Chelsea did a heck of a lot of work on making sure that kids were getting fed, you know, regardless of what was happening in the world. So that's a pretty significant job. In the upper right with safety and operations, we have Casey Woolley, and he is supervising also our facilities and maintenance coordinator down below. Manages supporting transportation, district safety, background checks, risk management. He'll be our SRO liaison as well, and working with the fire. So he works a lot through the safety and security. We know that everybody sends their children to school and they want them to be safe. And we think that that, of course, is our #1 job. And so working through all the safety issues around schools and what have you, glad that Casey's taking that on. Reviewing all of our policies around those and our procedures and making sure that our schools are practicing the drills and that we're staying up on the latest things. And also, of course, being a liaison between our police and fire is exceptionally important to us. And then, as I said before, facilities and maintenance, that's Ivan Lay, and he coordinates, supervises all the custodial, all the maintenance. As you can imagine, summertime is very busy. When people leave, then the most busy time for both the tech people and the facilities people is right now. So they do all the things around, make sure things get painted, making sure that we repair the furniture. You know, of course, during the year, you have to think about, you have thousands and thousands of people come in and out of that building every single day. And those are the people to make sure that it is clean and ready to go for students to come the next day. Also managing facility use, which of course, as we were public buildings, we have lots of people use facilities, and so they manage to make sure we have people there to open it, close it, clean it, things like that. So there's a lot happening in facilities and maintenance. Two over, the executive assistant to both Juan and myself, as well as she is the board secretary. So Jenny Marcus is normally here. She also does, besides just secretary for those things and managing all the parts of the office here, secretary also to you, the board of directors. She also manages all interdistrict transfers, policy updates. As you know, there are many. Quarterly, we get anywhere from 5 to 25 changes at the time a law changes. We have to change all of our policies to match those things. And so you can imagine when the legislature decides to pass 65 new laws that all somehow relate to education, we have to go back in and find every single policy that relates to and then bring it to the board for you to review and then change and make our updates. So there's a lot going in there. She also is in charge of monitoring our student enrollment and attendance and publishes all the legal notices that were required, depending upon which project we're working on. And then finally, because she's sitting in the room, I thought I would end here with Rachel Dansky. She is our communications and community outreach person. So a lot of her work is around getting the information out from the district and also getting information in from people. She works with our community partners, trying to identify additional resources that we can use. She collaborates with business partnerships so she can take in information and get stuff out, because communications is supposed to be a two-way, not a one-way. So I'm just telling you everything. We also want to hear from you. And so how do we coordinate those things? And I don't know how she does it, but Rachel does an exceptional job of doing that. So connecting parents and resources, and I said before, we'll be starting a weekly newsletter from the superintendent's office to the whole community, so you can kind of know what's happening. So that is the structure of the district. So I think I'll pause there. I said a lot more words than I thought I might. If there are any questions about what's on this chart, and as I said, as we finalize, we will put this up on the website.
I don't have any questions, but thanks for bringing the update to the board. It was nice to see where the organization is, or how it's being structured. So appreciate it.
Any more questions? Me?
No questions. So thank you for that chart. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Very good presentation. Thank you.
That's all I have for you.
Our next item is number 4. It's regular board meeting, August 23rd, 5:45 here.
And that will be a business meeting.
Yeah, that will be a regular
Regular business
meeting.
meeting. Yep. We're
There we
adjourned.
go.
There we go. 6:48.